Well, welcome once again, everyone, to this second Monday in our series. Happy Feast of St. David. I don't know if there's anybody who has Welsh heritage here, but it's a very special day in Wales, celebrating with dragons and daffodils and leeks. We're very happy to be here tonight to look once again at our threefold theme for tonight. Human habit that inflicts ecological wounds. Secondly, an ecological value that can counterbalance that habit. And then a healing action we can take to sustain and renew our life in our common home. So this week, I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of the readings or do some other reflection, but just as a little review, we're going to look at envy tonight, or allow envy to be part of our thinking. When we are consumed by envy, we allow that which we lack to overshadow all that for which we have to be thankful. We're going to place envy, that wound, beside gratitude, that value. The placement of greater emphasis on the sources of deep joy and connectedness in our life. Perceiving keenly the gifts and opportunities available to support our healthy growth on our personal path. And I don't know if you've ever seen the video by Brother David Steindl-Rast on gratitude, but if you want to just have a beautiful immersion, yes, in gratitude, he does it very, very well. And then we'll look, we're also at the same, in the same presencing, we look at the redefining our wealth. Our healing action is to reorient ourselves toward our true wealth, that which gives us joy, connection, and purpose. So I thought we'd begin today with a little sort of focusing, a little taking a minute to get quiet and bring to mind some of the things that may help us to connect as a group tonight. Then we'll move into a couple of short pieces from Laudato Si. Then we're going to move into a PowerPoint that will just be beautiful images and a beautiful song. Then we'll go into our small groups and see what's happening inside of us. Is that okay? Could you please send the spelling of that video? Yes, yes, I'll put it in after, Beverly. Absolutely. Good idea. Okay, so I just invite us now to get comfortable. If you wish to close your eyes or close your camera, whichever, you're welcome to do that. And just take this brief time of bringing to our present moment and our mind a happy place. Think of one place, a place where you have been or can go, that is just a place where you are at peace and joyful. And just be aware of what makes you so happy in that place. What does it feel like? What does it feel like in your body? In that place, in that joy? And now, perhaps in the same place or perhaps not, think of someone with whom it gives you joy to be with. Think of that person right next to you, with you now. Could be someone from the past or the present of your life. What does it feel like to be near that person? Why? Why is it joyful to be with that person? What does it feel like in your body to be with that person? Now, holding those experiences of joy, what sabotages our joy? What shakes me off my peaceful place and makes me feel envy or doubt or judgment? What does that feel like? Why do I feel like that sometimes? And what does it feel like in my body when I feel envy or doubt? Maybe judgmental of my own self or others. Still in this meditative mode, I'm going to read some small pieces of Laudato Si, numbers 225 and 226, and just allow the words to evoke in you whatever comes, whatever evokes. No one can cultivate a sober and satisfying life without being at peace within him or herself. An adequate understanding of spirituality consists in filling out what we mean by peace, which is much more than the absence of war. Inner peace is closely related to care for ecology and for the common good. Because lived out authentically, inner peace is reflected in a balanced lifestyle, together with a capacity for wonder, which takes us to a deeper understanding of life. Nature is filled with words of love. Nature is filled with words of love. But how can we listen to them amidst constant noise, interminable and nerve-wracking distractions, or the cult of appearances? Many people today sense a profound imbalance, which drives them to frenetic activity and makes them feel busy in a constant hurry, which in turn leads them to ride roughshod over everything around them. This too affects how they treat the environment. An integral ecology includes taking time to recover a serene harmony with creation, reflecting on our lifestyle and our ideals, and contemplating the Creator who lives among us and surrounds us. We are speaking of an attitude of the heart, one which approaches life with serene attentiveness, which is capable of being fully present to someone without thinking of what comes next, which accepts each moment as a gift from God to be lived to the full. Now I'm going to share my screen. I invite you to open your eyes if you wish, or when you're ready. And I'm going to play a song, a beautiful song by Sarah Thompson called Rhapsody of Rest. And following along this theme of envy, gratitude, and redefining our wealth, I just invite you to let the words play over you and see what they evoke. And after this, we will go into small groups and have the chance to share. Right. Oh,
The sun is rising in the east, and the feathered flutes begin trilling in the trees, and I sing to love, sing to give love, sing to hold love, sing to be love. In the morning, thank you, thank you. In the evening, thank you, thank you. In the middle of the day, thank you, thank you. In the deep, dark night, thank you, thank you. The sun is shining in the south, and I breathe you in, and I breathe you out, and I breathe in love, breathe out to give love, breathe in to hold love, breathe out to be love. In the morning, thank you, thank you. In the evening, thank you, thank you. In the middle of the day, thank you, thank you. In the deep, dark night, thank you, thank you. The sun is setting in the west, and the birds begin to sing their Rhapsody of Rest. And I rest in love, rest to give love, rest to hold love, rest to be love. Smooshy in the morning, hallelujah. Smooshy in the evening, hallelujah. Smooshy in the middle of the day, hallelujah. Smooshy in the dark night, hallelujah. And I sing to love, sing to give love, sing to hold love, sing to be love. Breathe in love, breathe out to give love, breathe in to hold love, breathe out to be love. Rest in love, rest to give love, rest to hold love, rest to be loved. In the morning, hallelujah. In the evening, hallelujah. In the middle of the day, hallelujah. In the deep dark night, hallelujah. In the deep dark night, hallelujah.
So, all of these images, all of these moments, all of our memories and our hopes and dreams. We bring it all now to our heart and to being together. We are the right people to be together tonight to share this moment. And we do so gratefully. And so we're going to go into small groups now for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back. And the small group is whatever your small group wants to make it. What's shimmering in you? What questions arise? You know, what story do you want to tell? Just make sure everybody gets a chance to surface whatever, and wherever the spirit takes the group. I hope your small groups were good. Now we sort of have 20 minutes left in our hour. This is just wide open time. What's surfacing? Did you hear anything that surprised you? Did you hear anything or share anything that is still just shimmering, echoing, that you want the whole big group to hear? What's happening?
So could I say, so I would just wanted to say, I brought this up in our small group. I've been reading Fratelli e Sorelle Stuti, and I would like to say that there's some overlay between the two, whereas I interpreted Laudato Si as talking about care of the common home and how we play that on our lives, both in our heart, going into our actions. What I'm finding from the new encyclical is that it's how are we caring for each other? But there's some of the same, in my opinion, there's some of the same type of what motivates you, what's in your heart, how do you look at your fellow person in this case. In Laudato Si was more, how do you look at nature? What's your spiritual relationship to nature? So I thought that was kind of, it almost seems like Laudato Si 2 in a way. I haven't finished it, so I don't know I should probably not say that yet, but anyhow.
Thank you. One of the things that I said in our little group, we were talking about nature and gratitude and, you know, just appreciating simple things. And I said, spring this year is going to be like we've never experienced before. Don't you think? Spring is going to be the biggest gift. And I think we're just going to be so aware of things greening and flowering. And I mean, I guess it partly depends on where you live, and it's partly because I, you know, moved to New York from California, but just dying for spring.
I'd like to jump on that, what you just said, Mary, about this redefining wealth. I think it has a lot to do with what you just said. It has a lot to do with awareness, you know, and sort of like broadening the horizon of our consciousness, if you will. So spring happens every year, but maybe last year and maybe this year even more, we notice it more. And same thing, like in our small group, we were talking about how the pandemic is like, we kind of just cherish every little interaction we have with another human being, even if it's mediated via mask, you know, face to face is like, I talked to somebody, you know? And it made me think that like, there are like 7.8 billion human beings on the globe. And no matter how many people you meet, even before the pandemic, you're only gonna meet a small fraction of them. So by definition, every single connection, even talking to somebody at the bus stop, is like a gem, you know? It's like so rare, but we haven't been walking, as the humanity hasn't been walking with that awareness. And now I think this is like the part of the silver lining of the heaviness of the pandemic is blossoming of awareness. Thanks on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one thing that I shared in the small group was that one thing that I never noticed before was the smell of air. I think when I like go outside for a walk or when there's nobody around, and I'm like in a neighborhood, I just take my mask off and I just smell. I think I've never realized before how it changes. Like when you smell the air, I think that it's just been something that I think before I just like was breathing, so I never really took it for granted. But now I'm like, oh, it smells so good, or oh, I smell this flower, or oh, this smells different today. And I think that I just never used that sense before as much as I have now. I think that it's just so much more of an appreciation when I'm going outside and I can get fresh air.
I guess for me, when I was looking at the little film that you showed, and it just struck me that any time you can say thank you, doesn't have to be, don't have to sit down and think about it, but it can be very spontaneous. Is always something you can be thankful for.
And that's the image I enjoyed in the song, with looking at the geographical location, you know, looking north and south and then east, and just being aware geographically more so of the world and being grateful.
To kind of piggyback on Thomas in particular, but a little bit on everyone's comments, I was trying to keep a log this week of the joys and the connections that comprise wealth. And I realized, because my life involves staying inside my apartment very much, and so having very few human interactions on a daily basis, I basically wrote down every single human interaction that I had, which wouldn't be possible in a normal week of normal life. But in this week, it was possible. And it was kind of amazing to me that, you know, in one hand, you feel sad that you're able to write down every interaction that you've had. But on the other hand, I was really able to remember them all in a way and appreciate them. And that's the kind of wealth that is always present every time I interact with someone, but I'm not able to recall it so as to properly appreciate it at a normal time. And so even there, there's a wealth in kind of having less and being able to really savor those human interactions. Literally, I spoke to 2 different people at the laundromat and both wrote down both people. So it's really, it's really amazing the things that I would have overlooked before, but now can see are worthy of appreciation.
That's a terrific song to take for kind of centering and, you know, that doing the actual breathe in love and breathing it out. And, oh, I made a 10-day retreat this past fall, using that song. It evokes all sorts of things. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that my group helped me to, I guess, reflect on, and that I want to carry into this week, is that concept of redefining wealth, and specifically about how wealth is presence, like presence in the moment, allowing myself to be surprised, expecting that people and nature have something to say to me, And when those moments arrive, it's kind of like an aha kind of moment. We were sharing some moments that were, even just watching others, especially children, have a very joyful experience, and it's so spontaneous that it's kind of that stance, and recognizing those encounters that create that kind of awe in us. It's so connected to gratitude.
Anybody have any thoughts on envy?
Yeah, I did. I shared with my group. Because I looked at the paper ahead of time, and I saw the word envy, and thinking about it, I said, very often I find that if I think I'm envious about something or somebody, I find that I've almost made it up, that there's no really basis in it when I really think about it.
I contemplated it a bit, envy, and I came up with the thinking that it's really connected with selfishness, and always connected in my life when I think about if I feel envy, it's a selfishness, and it's also connected to a want rather than a basic human need, it seems. So it goes back to sealing and lessening of desires, which we talked about in our small group.
I had mentioned in the small group that I have a lifetime friend from high school who's Jewish, and she observes the Sabbath, and I've always been jealous of how she's able to just, on the Sabbath, there's no TV, no car, no electronics. It's just a day totally given to God. And I envy the way she's able to just put everything else on hold and just keep the Sabbath day. That's nothing that I couldn't do for myself if I wanted to, but I guess, again, she has the support of the community to do that. But again,
Nancy, are you?
Sorry. I would like to continue with with what Adrian finished, the support of the community, because I was not here last week, and suddenly we are in a small group, and I felt like at home. The spiritual feeling, and I started talking about something very intimate, and then I was surprised, like I haven't talked about that with anybody else. How come I ended up talking with 3 strangers, but spiritually it didn't feel like strangers, because I was sharing that how I felt the wound of these expectations people had on me, and that had caused a wound because I have defined wealth in a very different way from my father, and that had caused very deep wounds in my brother and myself, because we have chosen to define wealth as knowledge, and we are both, I have a PhD, my brother is an engineer, and have a lot of other training, but I define it as how much I enjoy what I'm doing, not necessarily on how much I have, and my brother is the same, but my dad grew up thinking poor, like people that went through the Depression, that if you have a PhD, you have to show it in material things. If you're an engineer, why are you living like a poor person? So he judges us very harsh, and that had created a deep wound. But we know what we want, and we are happy, but still to have someone as close that you always want approval. And I say, if I cannot convince him about ecological issues, well, but at the same time, it had developed enough patience to be able to accept people ignoring my comments and my fight for environmental issues. Said, okay, another father, I love you, and you will get there on time, not in my time, in God's time. So I have a little bit more patience than usual, because I just think about people that treat me bad because of my ideas as, okay, I love you as I love my dad, but keep him away from me. Anyway, but it surprised me, and I felt this sense of community in such a short period of time, which anyway, so thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
I really enjoyed the idea of reflecting on envy, almost as a concept of thinking of it almost as confusion, confusing someone else's path for your path. Because of course, you know, as Nancy, you were just saying, every time we encounter someone else, everyone has a slightly different definition of their goal, what they're going for. And there are some pretty common ones out there. And maybe some people in this group, we depart from those common ones in certain ways that are kind of easily spotted. But everyone's end is a little bit different because we each, of course, are approaching the world with a different background, a different story. And it's so helpful, I think, to think of wealth as something that's really personal. Just as the path ahead of you is personal, because it's your own personal wealth that you're going to have to draw on to create your own personal path. And you can't draw from someone else's wealth to create your path. It has to really be yours. And it's not to say that we're going to end up, you know, in terribly different places. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we end up in community. But the way to get there, it really is about cultivating a personal sense of your personal gifts, your personal opportunities, your personal wealth that will carve out your path for you. And the rest of it that's floating around out there, it's really just a distraction from what's going to bring real fulfillment and wealth to our own lives.
Thank you, Teresa. I can still hear the song saying, in the morning, thank you, thank you. In the middle of the day, thank you, and in the evening. So thank you to all of you. I hope these, the sharing and the music and the being together resonates through your night and through your week and reminds you of gratitude and real wealth. Teresa, I didn't ask you this before, but you're leading next week. Is there anything you want to say? Yes? Oh, good.
Yes, everyone. Just wanted you to know that as we have for the past 2 sessions now, I'll be sending out a prompt tomorrow pertaining to what will be our topic, our 3 topics for next week. So please be on the lookout for that coming to your email. So when we meet next Monday evening on March the 8th, we will be discussing the wounding habit of overconsumption, the ecological value of honorable harvest, and the healing action of living simply. So please stay tuned for that.
Good, and let's carry each other in heart and mind until next week, and breathe out love.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Do look
Thank
up
you.
David Steindl Rast if you wanted
Thank
just a
you.
moment of gratitude.
Have a good week. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye,
Everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
You know.
Okay.